Hello, and welcome to Shared Passing Thoughts. Today we are going to be looking at an Amethyst Sapphire deck from Lorcana's first chapter. I'm also using untap.in to show the cards, and I have included its link in the description below. So here we go. The overall flow of this deck is to ink ramp in the early game, draw in the mid game, and then remove your opponent's threats in the late game, while questing for lore throughout. The deck does have 20 uninkable cards, although 8 of those uninkables do provide ink ramp in the early game. The deck also contains 12 cards with an ink cost of 7 or 8, but the ink ramp of this deck can potentially have you playing these cards by turn 5 or 6. When playing this deck, be sure to take advantage of the mulligan rule. Keep at least one ink cost of 1, 2, and 3 in your opening hand, and mulligan all other uninkables remaining. You want your early game cards in your opening hand, and inkable cards to continue filling your inkwell to at least 8 ink. Now let's look at the cards themselves. For the 1-cost ink cards, we run a total of 12. Archimedes and Flounder are both standard filler cards to provide some board presence and questing for 1 lore, and potentially dealing out damage in challenges with their 2 strength and 2 willpower bodies. You want to play Archimedes and Flounder in the early game, and then most likely ink them in the mid to late game, unless you already have 8 ink in your inkwell. We also run the action card Develop Your Brain, which you can play in the early game to optimize your hand. However, Develop Your Brain is best to play in the late game, when you have more ink, so you can play the card you draw from its effect. Next are the 2 ink cost cards, which we will also run 12 of. Grandma is a great early game play. This character provides some board presence by being able to quest for 1, having 1 strength and 1 willpower. Her ability to become exerted ink for your inkwell when she is banished is what really makes her shine, since she can make a small impact when played in the early game and still ink ramp you for the late game. Her ability's wording is also great since it doesn't matter how she is banished. We also have the uninkable action 1 Jump Ahead, which ink ramps and can be played as a song. So playing this on turn 2 is fine, but playing it on turn 3 as a song is even better. Now 1 Jump Ahead does feel awkward in the late game when you already have 8 ink in your inkwell, so this may be a card to cut in future releases of Lorcana's second chapter and onwards. The last 2 ink cost card is the character Magic Broom, which is mostly a filler card that can also be replaced in future sets, although it does have some recursion potential when combined with Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer, which we will talk about soon. Magic Broom is a 2 strength, 2 willpower, and 1 lore value character, so its stats are just okay. Its ability to shuffle a card from a discard into that player's deck can be useful against certain matchups. Magic Broom can prevent some character recursion against Hades, Lord of the Underworld, and part of your world. It can also assist in dealing with recursions that are action-based, such as Lady Tremaine or Do It Again. Another recursion it can help in preventing is Captain Hook, Captain of the Jolly Roger. Moving on to the 3 ink cost cards, we will be running 12 of these as well. Mickey Mouse Detective is an amazing early game ink ramp value character card, giving you an exerted ink to your inkwell from the top of your deck while also giving you a 1 strength, 3 willpower, and 1 lore value character body for board presence. Mickey Mouse Detective is uninkable, so he is going to feel slightly awkward in the late game when you already have 8 ink in your inkwell. However, he is going to provide you with some extra ink while giving you another small body at the same time, which will feel better than getting 1 jump ahead in the late game. Maleficent is also pure value by letting you draw a card and giving you a 2 strength, 2 willpower, 1 lore value body. She is inkable, and her draw a card ability makes her feel good even in the late game. Our other 3 ink cost card for this deck is Friends on the Other Side, which is an inkable action that is also a song. Friends on the Other Side is a good card to play in the early game, although it is even better to play in the mid game as a song. We only run one 4 ink cost card in the deck, being Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer. This character is inkable, has 3 strength, 4 willpower, and 2 lore value. Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer is mainly filler for this deck, giving you the potential to have recursion with magic brooms and to decrease your magic brooms cost. Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer is just like magic brooms in that they combo together. They are mostly filler for potential recursion. They're both inkable, and they both could be replaced in future sets. We also only run one 5 ink cost card in the deck, which is the inkable action Let It Go. Let It Go's removal effect to put a chosen character into their player's inkwell exerted is awesome when compared to other forms of removal, since it gets around potential recursion and generic banishing trigger abilities that your opponent could have in play, such as Hades, Lord of the Underworld, Part of Your World, your opponent's Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer when combined with Magic Broom, Dr. Facilier, Agent Provocateur, Marshmallow, and Musketeer Tabard. The only negative part to this action's removal effect is that it does ink ramp your opponent's inkwell if you target one of their characters with this action. However, the benefits of getting around specific strategies that your opponent could be implementing really makes this card shine in those situations. Let It Go is a card to play in the late game to remove your opponent's biggest threat that doesn't have ward. At ink cost 6, we will also only be running one card at this level, being Robin Hood. Robin Hood is an inkable character with 4 strength, 4 willpower, and 2 lore value. The main reason to run Robin Hood is for the potential draw, which you get to do so long as you have less cards in your hand than your opponent. Although another benefit of running Robin Hood in this deck is for his ability to gain evasive during your turn, which can help in dealing with your opponent's evasive characters without having to use up your removal options. Now onto this deck's high cost cards, starting with ink cost 7. Hades is arguably the best card in this deck, being uninkable character with 3 strength, 6 willpower, and 2 lore value. The removal ability is what makes this card so awesome, being able to put an opponent's character into their inkwell when you play Hades. This removal is amazing for all of the same reasons that Let It Go removal effect is so great, potentially dealing with your opponent's recursion options and generic banishing trigger abilities. Hades is also best to play in the late game, even if you ramp quickly, so you can deal with your opponent's big threats that don't have ward. Next is the uninkable Ursula. A 2 strength, 8 willpower, and 3 lore value body, which causes each opponent to lose 1 lore when she is played, and then you draw a card for each lore lost this way. In a standard game of 1v1, she brings value by giving you a good body that can survive quite a bit of damage, quest for 3 lore, and gives you a card while removing one of your opponent's lore. In a multiplayer game, Ursula is really powerful, since she can draw you multiple cards depending on how many players are in the game. Ursula is a solid card, but perhaps a card to remove from the deck depending on what uninkables are released in future sets. This brings us to our last card, the 8 uninkable cost character, Elsa, Spirit of Winter. She is a 4 strength, 6 willpower, and 3 lore value body that can shift 6. However, we aren't running the other Elsas, so shift 6 isn't a factor with this deck as it currently is. Elsa Spirit of Winter's main reason for being in this deck is her ability to exert up to 2 chosen characters when she is played, and those characters can't ready at the start of their next turn. Elsa Spirit of Winter's ability allows for you to catch up if you are behind and your opponent is about to win the game, or allows you to close out the game if you are winning the lore race. Since the characters you exert with her ability can't ready, she can potentially allow you to banish your opponent's characters by challenging them as well, making her a conditional removal option for the deck. Well, that is it for my shared passing thoughts on this Amethyst Sapphire Ink Flow deck. Share your passing thoughts in the comments below, and please like the video and subscribe for more shared passing thoughts to come on this topic and more.